A friend from my riding group recently asked me which Harleys you have to try at least once in your lifetime. What are must-ride bikes that every motorcyclist, Harley fan or not, should experience at least once? And in this video I'll introduce you to 5 legendary Harley models that everyone should ride at least once in their lifetime. Whether you ride a Ducati, a BMW or a Japanese bike, these 5 Harleys will offer you a fresh, exciting perspective on motorcycling that you won't find with any other brand. Enough talk, and now let's go! Number 5. The Road King. The Road King was so popular upon its launch that it triggered a speculation boom. When Harley introduced the bike in 1994, demand was surprisingly high for that particular model. In fact, it was so high that it overwhelmed Harley's strategic planners and production couldn't keep up. This caused months-long waiting lists and an unprecedented wave of speculation. High demand met limited supply, and this set market forces in motion. Shortly after the release, the first Road Kings were already being offered as used bikes on the market, with some of them having 0 miles on the speedometer. Now the funny thing was, the prices for these used bikes were even higher than the MSRP of new ones, and people still were eager to buy them. This situation led to a full-on Road King speculation frenzy, a trader's dream and an enthusiast's nightmare. Some consider that the Road King triggered Harley's Dutch tulip moment, and it is a great story to highlight the model's popularity to this day. But was the rush for the Road King justified? What makes this model so special, and why is it a must-ride? Let's break it down. At first glance, a novice might look at the Road King and think it's just another Harley. And you might even confuse it with a Softail Heritage, especially since the Road King Classic looks quite similar, and others might consider it a naked Ultra Glide without the fairing and the top case. And that's exactly what it is. But this simple reason is also what makes it so great. When you sit on a Road King for the first time, it feels like you're setting sail on a cruise ship. The bike feels big and heavy during standstill, almost as if it needed a ship's diesel engine to get it going. You sit on it higher than on a Softail, and there's this sense that you're on something truly grand and special. However, once you get this beast moving, the feeling of heaviness vanishes instantly. As soon as the King is in motion, the bike feels 200 pounds lighter, and you could almost call it nimble. The frame of the motorcycle is so stable, and the modern dual disc combined brake setup from Brembo makes the weight disappear. But the sensation of riding something truly remarkable stays. Even though the Road King isn't a light motorcycle, it's the lightest Harley with the awesome touring chassis. That means you get the highest level of comfort per pound, and that's exactly what makes the Road King unique. Minimalism without sacrificing ride dynamics or seating comfort. On the King, you experience authentic motorcycling without distractions like music, navigation systems or other electronic gadgets. Yet you get all the necessary modern comfort goodies such as cruise control to make the trip as pleasant as possible. When you ride the King, there's an incredible sense of majesty. It's an absolute must to take it for a test ride, especially if you have a soft spot for cruise ships. Number 4. A Shovelhead Chopper. At least once in your life you should ride an old school chopper, even if it's only for a few hundred miles. This experience will forever change how you view motorcycling. But what exactly do I mean by chopper? I'm referring to any Harley made before 1984, and the Shovelhead is probably your best bet as they offer a certain level of reliability. If you're lucky, old choppers have around 50 horsepower. They reek of gasoline while running, and the rich fuel mixture in the carburetor creates a deep, distinctive sound. Concepts like emission standards or noise regulations, these rules do not exist in chopper reality. Riding a chopper has nothing to do with performance, stability or engineering excellence. In fact, it's the complete opposite. So any argument, my Ducati, BMW or Honda as this and that, is completely missing the point here. For example, starting a chopper is a ritual in itself. If you're unlucky, your bike won't have an electric starter and just a kickstarter. To get it running, you'll have to perform a carefully rehearsed choreography, which involves twisting the throttle, pulling the choke and kicking it relentlessly. Eventually it will roar to life, and the onlookers, because you'll definitely attract attention, will sigh in relief that the ritual worked. But if you're lucky, your chopper will have an electric starter and you can fire it up with just the push of a button. However, if your machine has been sitting in the garage for a while, because you usually prefer your modern first bike for the daily commutes, the carburetor might be clogged on your chopper and you'll have to clean it. But that won't bother a true chopper fan. It's the perfect excuse to retreat to your cozy workshop and lovingly tinker with the bike, perhaps with a cold beer or two in your hand. And while you're at it, you might as well fix the oil leak around the cylinders, maybe even install that vintage handlebar you've always wanted. Oh, and why not replace the heavy clutch too? And just like that, several hours have passed, spent in the garage, wrenching on the bike and wondering how time flies. This is all part of the chopper experience. When you finally have that first moment of success after your customization project, when what you've put together actually works, you're overcome with an incredible euphoria. That's how you catch the chopper bug even without riding the bike for a single mile. This tinkering is a genuine analog element in today's digital world, a rarity that modern motorcycles simply cannot offer. So how does one of these things ride? These bikes smell like gasoline, vibrate like crazy, and if you've got a rigid frame, you'll feel every bump in the road right in your spine. In short, it's a mix of freedom, masochism, ecstasy, and definitely worth a try. Number 3, the FXR. One of the most underrated Harley models which came equipped with the Evo engine is the FXR. Today it is considered an absolute cult bike from the 80s and 90s. Ironically, the bike is also one of the most advanced Harleys of that time. The FXR was developed by Eric Buell and was meant to contrast Harley's cruiser image, which was seen as slow and laid back. Back then, Harley had serious trouble competing with brands like Honda. The modern and sporty Japanese 4-cylinder machines like the Honda CB754 were vastly superior to Harley's offerings in terms of performance and price. Something had to be done, and fast. The solution? The development of the FXR, Harley's first production performance cruiser. The FXR was equipped with an extremely rigid frame, dual disc brakes, and in the FXRT version with lightweight saddlebags and a fairing. For the first time, Harley riders could enjoy more lean angle and somewhat of a sporty riding style on a Harley. In fact, it was the wolf in sheep's clothing. It looked like a cruiser, sounded like a chopper, but handled much sportier than anything Harley had made before. In the 90s, a couple of timeless movies immortalized the FXR. In Harley-Davidson and the Marlboro Man, Mickey Rourke rides a rigid-framed FXR with a pretty blonde perched on an unpadded rear fender behind him into the sunset. Is this comfortable? No. Is this cool? Yes, absolutely. Also in the 90s, in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, the character Butch, played by Bruce Willis, picked up his girlfriend on an Evo FXR as well. Although he's in a hurry, he still takes the time to lovingly explain to his girlfriend that this is not just a motorcycle.
It's a chopper, baby.
And although the FXR isn't a classic chopper, he's right in saying that it's something special. It's a top-tier old-school sport cruiser. The sound and vibrations of the Evo engine remain unmatched to this date. And if you haven't already, find an FXR, ideally one from 92 onwards, and take it for a spin on some twisty roads. And I guarantee you'll still be delightfully grinning even hours after the ride. Number 2, the Softail Fatboy. It's no coincidence that the Fatboy made cinematic history in the early 90s in the Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself rode it while fending off a furious metal maniac that was hell-bent on getting its hands on Arnold's prized bike. Clearly the robot was envious. He was forced to run, yes run, instead of cruising on a beautiful Fatboy. So he spent half the movie chasing down Arnie's ride. The guy was so obsessed with Arnie's Fatboy that he became a Harley dealer himself in real life. From my point of view, it was a stroke of marketing genius, reflected in the massive increase in sales numbers of the Fatboy. But why should you ride one? Because nothing rides as smoothly as a Softail, and the Fatboy, it's simply the most iconic of them all. This bike is perfect for turning off your brain and cruising down a country road. Think of it as meditation on two wheels. In both the twin cam and the Milwaukee 8 version of the Fatboy, counterbalancers are built into the engine. This part transforms the engine's sometimes tiring vibrations into good vibrations, letting you enjoy that classic Harley rumble without your hands going numb. The Softail has also a brilliant frame geometry, placing the rider low and inside the bike, perfectly suited to its low and relaxed cruising attitude. The Fatboy has been around for 3 generations of Harley engines, so which one's the best, you may ask? Truth to be told, the Evo and the early twin cam Softails are pretty similar in terms of ride quality. It wasn't until 2007 that the Fatboy's tires started getting ridiculously wide. This means the earlier models were relatively agile, while the later models invite to a more laid-back riding style. But at the same time, the modern engine generates much more power, which is more fun to ride. My conclusion, if you've never ridden a Harley before and you're looking to start somewhere, go with the Fatboy. Nothing delivers that laid-back cruiser vibe quite like it. As of posting this video, my channel has nearly 700 subscribers. It would mean a lot to me if you could take a moment and help me reach the magic 1000 milestone by subscribing to my channel. And now let's dive deeper into my number 1 pick, which is the Dyna Lowrider S. Now, some of you might be surprised by my topic, but I want to remind you what this video is about. Which Harleys should you definitely ride at least once in your life, even if you normally ride a different motorcycle? I think the Dyna Lowrider S is the best choice, and here's why. The Dyna embodies everything Harley-Davidson has stood for since its founding. It's got an authentic V-twin engine with a large displacement packed into the smallest possible chassis. It generates a deep, unmistakable sound and massive torque at low RPMs. The huge engine in the Dyna chassis produces vibrations vibrations that even rival those of the old Shovelheads. Now that's because the twin cam is rubber mounted but doesn't have balance shafts like the soft tails, which reduce vibration. The results of this engine configuration: it shakes so much at idle that the handlebars wobble like an antenna in a hurricane. Harley fans love this feeling, which is why many are willing to pay more for an old twin cam Dyna than for a new Milwaukee 8 model. Now you might wonder, how does this translate to the ride quality? The big surprise comes when the Dyna hits the road. Once you're riding, the vibrations significantly reduce. At the same time, the engine produces massive torque that pulls your arms straight, impressing even sports bike riders.
NANI?!
Plus, it has the sportiest chassis along with dual disc front brakes and premium suspension components. For comparison, it weighs 100 pounds less than the Road King, which translates into better handling and faster acceleration without losing any of the old school charm. I've often seen riders switching from sports bikes to the Lowrider S after a test ride, which blew their mind. In my opinion, the Dyna Lowrider S strikes a perfect balance between old school feel, riding comfort and power. Something few other Harleys can match. Now you may ask, what about the new Softail Lowrider S? The Milwaukee 8 engine version is the Dyna's spiritual sibling. Many iconic features have been carried over to the Softail lineup, which makes it an awesome ride. However, with the modern Milwaukee 8 Lowriders, you might miss the Dyna's vibrations, but you get even more power and a more advanced engine. One drawback I've noticed on all of these bikes I've tested is the somewhat stiff clutch. Especially during long stop and go stretches in the city or at rallies, your hand can get tired from using the clutch. That's why I installed a Muller power clutch on my own lowrider. This little marvel reduces the effort needed to operate the clutch by up to 45%, which is a huge relief. So you don't need to be a professional arm wrestler to ride a Harley. In my opinion, this product is an absolute must-have for any Harley. It dramatically improves your riding experience regardless of whether you ride a Milwaukee 8 or a twin cam. And the best part, it's relatively easy to install in about 1 to 2 hours. So if you're interested, check out the link in the description. I get a small knockback from Muller, which helps me to cover some of the production costs for these videos. So you're not only getting a cool upgrade, but you're also directly supporting my channel. Now to wrap up, all the Harleys on this list are incredible, unique motorcycles. If you get the chance to ride even 1 or 2 of them, take it. You will be surprised how different these bikes are from anything you've ridden before. Do you agree with my ranking? What would you put on the top spot and why? Leave a comment below, I'd love to know what you think. Are you a beginning rider and want to know which Harleys are best suited for you? Then check out my next video in the link. Thank you for watching and see you next time.